Welcome back to Midnight Deep Dive, where learning feels like the best kind of bedtime story. Tonight we're floating into the world of capybaras, nature's proof that you don't need to hurry to get anywhere worth going. These remarkable creatures are so peaceful that even baby crocodiles trust them enough to nap on their backs, and so at home in water that they can simply sink to the bottom of a river and rest there for 5 whole minutes. So settle in, close your eyes, and let yourself drift peacefully as we discover what makes these gentle souls the ultimate teachers of tranquility. Origins and evolution, the ancient story. Picture, if you will, the steamy wetlands of South America some 8 million years ago. The air is thick with moisture, alive with the gentle lapping of water against muddy banks and the distant calls of prehistoric birds. In this primordial landscape, a remarkable evolutionary story was unfolding. One that would eventually give us the capybara, a creature so perfectly adapted to peaceful coexistence that it seems almost designed by nature to teach us about tranquility. The capybara's journey begins not with the gentle giants we know today, but with much smaller ancestors. These early rodents, no bigger than modern guinea pigs, scurried through the understory of ancient forests. But evolution had grander plans. Over millions of years, these tiny creatures began to grow, their bodies adapting to a life increasingly intertwined with water. The fossil record tells us a fascinating story. In the dusty archives of paleontology, researchers have uncovered the remains of creatures like Phobramys pattersoni, a prehistoric rodent the size of a small car. Imagine that for a moment, a guinea pig the size of a sedan, grazing peacefully in ancient grasslands. While not a direct ancestor, these giants show us that large rodents once ruled South American landscapes. But our capybaras chose a different path. Rather than becoming enormous land dwellers, they found their calling in the gentle embrace of water. Gradually, their bodies became more streamlined, their feet developed subtle webbing, and their nostrils migrated to the tops of their heads, perfect for a life spent partly submerged in warm, muddy rivers. This transformation wasn't rushed. Evolution works with the patience of flowing water, slowly shaping and reshaping over countless generations. The early capybaras discovered that water offered something precious: safety, food, and a way of life that minimized conflict and stress. In the water, they could escape predators simply by sinking below the surface. Near water, they found the lushest grasses and most tender shoots. As the climate shifted and changed over millennia, as ice ages came and went, the capybaras remained constant in their watery domains. They survived the great extinction events that claimed so many others, perhaps because their lifestyle was so perfectly balanced, so in harmony with their environment that they needed little beyond what nature readily provided. The story of how they became the world's largest rodents is one of gentle persistence. While their cousins remained small, the guinea pigs, the chinchillas, the agoutis, capybaras grew steadily larger, but never at the expense of their essential gentleness. It's as if they understood, on some deep evolutionary level, that true strength comes not from aggression or competition, but from finding your perfect niche and settling into it completely. Physical marvels, the architecture of calm. To truly understand a capybara, you must first appreciate the subtle brilliance of their physical form. Standing about 2 feet tall at the shoulder and stretching 4 feet from nose to tail, they possess the kind of solid, reassuring presence that immediately puts other animals at ease. Their weight, typically between 77 and 146 pounds, is distributed across their barrel-shaped body in a way that speaks of stability and groundedness. Their fur deserves special mention, for it's unlike anything else in the animal kingdom. Coarse and thick, each hair is slightly bristly to the touch, yet somehow this creates an overall texture that's deeply satisfying. The color varies from a warm reddish-brown to a cooler grayish-brown, often with darker patches around the face and lighter tones on the belly. This isn't the soft fur of a house cat or the fluffy down of a rabbit. This is working fur, designed for a life spent moving between water and land, mud and grass. But it's their eyes that truly capture the essence of capybara calm. Large, dark, and positioned high on their heads, these eyes seem to hold an ancient wisdom. They blink slowly, deliberately, as if each blink is a small meditation. The placement isn't accidental. When a capybara submerges in water, these elevated eyes allow them to keep watch, while the rest of their body remains hidden beneath the surface. Their ears are small and rounded, set back on their heads like little radar dishes, constantly tuned to the gentle sounds of their environment. The rustle of grass, the lap of water, the soft calls of their family members. These ears can rotate independently, a charming sight that gives capybaras an almost comically alert expression, even in their most relaxed moments. Perhaps most fascinating are their feet large, with 4 toes on the front feet and 3 on the back, each toe ending in a sturdy, hoof-like nail. The slight webbing between their toes might not be immediately obvious, but it's there, a subtle adaptation that makes them surprisingly graceful in water. On land, these feet act like natural snowshoes, distributing their weight so evenly that they can walk across muddy ground that would trap other animals. Their teeth tell their own story. Like all rodents, capybaras have continuously growing incisors that must be worn down through constant use. But their back teeth are equally remarkable high-crowned molars perfect for grinding tough grasses and aquatic plants. The sound of a capybara chewing is rhythmic and soothing, like a gentle meditation on the simple act of nourishment. And then there are their scent glands, a feature that might seem unremarkable, but plays a crucial role in capybara society. Located on their noses, these glands secrete a clear substance that capybaras use to mark territory and communicate with others. They'll rub their noses on posts, rocks, or even each other, leaving behind messages that other capybaras can read like a gentle newsletter about who's been where and when. The overall impression of a capybara's body is one of perfect adaptation without excess. Nothing is overstated, nothing is wasted. Every feature serves a purpose in their peaceful lifestyle, from their water-resistant fur to their calm, steady heartbeat that seems to beat in rhythm with the natural world around them. Aquatic life, masters of the gentle current. Water isn't just part of a capybara's habitat, it's part of their soul. Watching a capybara enter water is like observing a master returning home after a long journey. They don't splash or struggle. Instead, they wade in with the same unhurried confidence they bring to everything else in their lives. The moment their large feet touch the water's edge, something magical happens. Their entire demeanor shifts into what can only be described as aquatic meditation. They'll often pause at the shoreline, seeming to test the water's temperature with their sensitive noses before committing to the experience. Then, with movements so smooth they barely disturb the surface, they ease themselves in. Once submerged, capybaras transform. Their bulky land bodies become streamlined torpedoes, moving through water with surprising grace. Their partially webbed feet propel them forward in long, lazy strokes, while their powerful legs kick in perfect rhythm. They can swim for considerable distances without apparent effort, their heads held high enough to keep their eyes, ears, and nostrils above water. But perhaps most remarkably, capybaras can simply vanish beneath the surface when they choose to. This isn't a panic dive, it's a deliberate, almost spiritual submersion. They can hold their breath for up to 5 minutes, during which time they might rest on the bottom of a river or pond, as motionless as a large, furry boulder. Imagine the peace of that moment, suspended in the gentle current, surrounded by the muffled sounds of the underwater world, completely hidden from the concerns of life above the surface. Their relationship with water extends beyond mere swimming. Capybaras are connoisseurs of different water experiences. They distinguish between the slow, warm waters of lagoons and the faster, cooler currents of rivers. In shallow areas, they'll often lie partially submerged, with just their heads above water, like living lily pads taking in the warmth of the sun. During the hottest part of the day, you'll find capybaras gathered in the shallows, their bodies creating gentle ripples as they shift and settle. The water serves as their air conditioning, their spa, and their sanctuary all at once. Young capybaras learn to swim almost as soon as they can walk, following their mothers into the water with the same natural confidence that human children follow parents into a familiar room. The sounds of capybaras in water are particularly soothing. There's the gentle plop as they enter, the soft whoosh of their breath as they surface, and the almost musical quality of water streaming from their fur as they emerge. Even their movements through water create a kind of rhythm. The steady splash of their feet, the quiet push of water against their bodies as they move. In deeper water, capybaras reveal another layer of their aquatic mastery. They can navigate strong currents with ease, using the flow of the river to help them move rather than fighting against it. This goes to the heart of capybara philosophy: work with nature, not against it. They seem to understand that water, like life itself, flows around obstacles rather than through them, and they've learned to embody this principle completely. Their love affair with water even extends to rain. While many animals seek shelter during downpours, capybaras often remain in the open, seemingly enjoying the sensation of droplets on their thick fur. They'll stand motionless in the rain, eyes closed, as if receiving a blessing from the sky itself. Social dynamics, the art of peaceful community. If you want to understand what true community looks like, you need only observe a group of capybaras on a riverbank as the sun begins its gentle descent toward the horizon. Here, in the golden light of late afternoon, you'll witness social dynamics so harmonious they seem almost choreographed by nature herself. Capybara society is built on a foundation of calm communication and mutual respect. A typical group consists of 10 to 20 individuals, though during the dry season, when water sources become scarce, gatherings can swell to include hundreds of capybaras from different family groups. Yet even in these large assemblies, conflict is remarkably rare. The sounds of capybara conversation are like a gentle symphony played on organic instruments. They communicate through a repertoire of soft whistles, each with its own meaning and emotional tone. There's the warm, welcoming whistle used to greet family members, slightly different in pitch from the alert whistle that signals something worth attention. Young capybaras make higher-pitched sounds, almost like the whistle of a tea kettle, while adults' calls are deeper and more resonant. But capybaras don't rely solely on sound. They're masters of body language, communicating volumes through subtle shifts in posture and position. A capybara who wants to indicate submission or peaceful intent will lower their head slightly and approach at an angle rather than head-on. Dominance is asserted not through aggression, but through calm confidence. The alpha capybara simply takes the best spot by the water's edge, and the others naturally arrange themselves accordingly. Their greeting rituals are particularly heartwarming. When capybaras meet, they'll often touch noses gently, sometimes followed by a bit of mutual grooming. They use their teeth to carefully clean each other's fur, paying special attention to spots the other can't reach. This grooming serves both practical and social purposes. It removes parasites and debris while reinforcing social bonds. The hierarchy in capybara groups is refreshingly peaceful. While there are definitely leaders, usually the largest, most experienced adult's leadership is exercised through example rather than force. The dominant capybara chooses when and where the group will feed, when to move to a new location, and when it's time to rest. The others follow not out of fear, but out of trust and habit. Perhaps most remarkable is how capybaras handle conflict. In the rare instances when disagreements arise, usually over prime feeding spots or access to mates, the resolution is swift and largely symbolic. Two capybaras might engage in what looks like a slow-motion chase. with the aggressor pursuing the other for a short distance before both simply stop and resume their normal activities. No injuries, no lasting grudges, no ongoing drama. Their care for young members of the community extends beyond just their own offspring. Capybara society is genuinely communal. Adults will watch over any young capybaras in the area, and mothers will even nurse babies that aren't their own if the need arises. This collective parenting creates an environment where young capybaras grow up surrounded by gentle guidance and protection from multiple adults. During rest periods, which make up a significant portion of their day, capybaras will often pile together in what can only be described as communal relaxation sessions. They'll lie side by side, sometimes with smaller individuals using larger ones as pillows, creating peaceful scenes that radiate contentment. The combined warmth of their bodies, the steady rhythm of their breathing, and the occasional soft whistle or sigh creates an atmosphere of profound tranquility. Even their territorial behavior is remarkably civilized. While capybaras do maintain territories, the boundaries are flexible and rarely enforced aggressively. Different groups might share overlapping areas during certain seasons, and temporary alliances form naturally when conditions require it. It's as if they understand that cooperation benefits everyone more than competition ever could. Diet and digestion, the meditation of eating. There's something deeply meditative about watching a capybara eat. Their approach to food embodies the same unhurried philosophy they bring to every aspect of their lives, turning the simple act of nourishment into something that looks remarkably like a moving meditation. Capybaras are selective grazers, meaning they don't simply mow down everything in their path like some other herbivores. Instead, they move through their environment with the careful attention of connoisseurs, choosing specific grasses, aquatic plants, and fruits based on criteria that seem to go beyond simple nutrition. They'll sample different plants, sometimes taking just a bite or two before moving on, as if they're conducting a gentle survey of what the landscape has to offer on that particular day. Their diet consists primarily of grasses, but not just any grasses. Capybaras show distinct preferences for certain species, often favoring younger, more tender shoots over older, tougher growth. They seem to instinctively understand the nutritional value of different plants at different stages of growth, selecting for protein content, digestibility, and even mineral content with surprising accuracy. The rhythm of their chewing is hypnotic. Each bite is thoroughly processed, their powerful jaw muscles working in steady, methodical motions that produce a soft, rhythmic sound. Unlike many animals that bolt their food, capybaras take their time with each mouthful, grinding it completely before swallowing. This careful chewing isn't just about manners, it's essential for proper digestion of their fibrous diet. But here's where capybara digestion gets truly fascinating. They practice something called coprophagy, which means they reconsume some of their own droppings. Before you recoil, understand that this is actually an elegant solution to a complex problem. Plant matter is notoriously difficult to digest completely on the first pass through the digestive system, especially the cellulose that makes up plant cell walls. Capybaras produce two types of droppings. The first type, soft and nutrient-rich, is immediately reconsumed, usually in the early morning hours when they're at their most relaxed. This soft pellet contains partially digested material that will yield additional nutrients when processed a second time. The second type, harder and less nutritious, is left behind as fertilizer. This two-stage digestion system allows capybaras to extract maximum nutrition from relatively low-quality plant material. The process happens so naturally and discreetly that many people who observe capybaras never even notice it occurring. There's no drama or fuss. It's simply another part of their daily rhythm, like grooming or resting. In many ways, it represents the ultimate in sustainable living, wasting absolutely nothing and making the most of every resource. Their diet changes subtly with the seasons, reflecting both availability and nutritional needs. During the wet season, when grasses are lush and water plants are abundant, capybaras enjoy what amounts to a green salad bar. They'll wade into shallow water to reach tender water hyacinth, water lettuce, and various sedges. The sound of them feeding in water is particularly peaceful. The gentle splash as they move, the soft squelch as they pull plants from muddy bottoms, and the rhythmic munching as they process their aquatic harvest. In the dry season, when fresh growth becomes scarcer, capybaras become more adventurous in their diet. They'll seek out fruits that have fallen from trees, root vegetables, and even tree bark in extreme circumstances. But even during these leaner times, they maintain their selective approach, never stripping an area bare or eating anything that might be harmful. Their feeding schedule follows the natural rhythms of their environment. They're most active feeders during the cooler parts of the day, early morning, and late afternoon into evening. During the hot midday hours, they prefer to rest in the shade or in water, digesting their morning meal and preparing for their evening feeding session. The social aspect of eating is also important to capybaras. While they don't share food directly, they often feed in close proximity to each other, creating a peaceful tableau of content grazers. Young capybaras learn what to eat by observing adults, gradually expanding their diet as they grow and develop their own preferences. Geographic journey, landscapes of peace. To understand capybaras fully, we must journey through the landscapes that shape them, a tour of South America's most tranquil and life-giving environments. These are places where water meets land in gentle transitions, where the boundaries between seasons blur into gradual changes, and where the pace of life follows rhythms established long before humans ever walked the earth. Our journey begins in the vast wetlands of the Pantanal, the world's largest tropical wetland area, stretching across parts of Brazil, Bolivia, and Paraguay. Here, during the wet season, the landscape transforms into an inland sea dotted with islands of higher ground. The water spreads out in sheets so vast and shallow that they mirror the sky perfectly, creating an environment that seems suspended between earth and heaven. In this flooded paradise, capybaras reach their highest densities. The endless expanse of water provides both protection and abundance, while scattered islands offer dry ground for rest and refuge. The sound of the Pantanal during capybara feeding time is like a gentle orchestra. The soft splash of movement through shallow water, the rhythmic munching of aquatic plants, and the occasional whistle of communication between family members. Moving north, we find ourselves in the llanos of Venezuela and Colombia, vast grasslands that flood seasonally, creating temporary lakes and rivers that capybaras have learned to navigate with the skill of ancient mariners. During the dry season, these plains stretch endlessly under blazing sun, broken only by gallery forests that follow the courses of permanent rivers. Capybaras gather around these water sources, creating temporary communities that can number in the hundreds. The Amazon basin presents yet another facet of capybara habitat. Here, in the Várzea, the seasonally flooded forests along the rivers, capybaras navigate between terrestrial and aquatic environments with even greater complexity. They swim between trees during high water season and graze in rich meadows when the waters recede. The Amazon's capybaras have adapted to a more forest-edge lifestyle, finding clearings and riverbanks where they can maintain their preferred balance of water access and open grazing areas. Further south, in the pampas grasslands of Argentina and southern Brazil, capybaras encounter a different set of challenges and opportunities. Here, the landscape is more openly pastoral, with scattered wetlands and slower rivers meandering through endless grasslands. The capybaras of this region often travel greater distances between water sources, but they've developed efficient routes that take advantage of seasonal patterns and permanent water features. Each of these landscapes has shaped capybara behavior in subtle ways. Panthenol capybaras tend to be slightly larger, benefiting from the abundant resources of their wetland paradise. Llano's capybaras have developed stronger seasonal migration patterns, following the flood and dry cycles across the vast plains. Amazon capybaras are more cautious and secretive, adapting to environments where forest cover provides both opportunity and danger. The seasonal changes in these landscapes create rhythms that capybaras have internalized over millions of years of evolution. In the Panthenol, the rising waters of the wet season trigger dispersal as capybaras spread out across the newly available habitat. In the Llanos, the retreat of dry season waters concentrates populations around remaining rivers and ponds. Throughout their range, capybaras have learned to read the subtle signs that predict these changes, shifts in wind patterns, changes in plant growth, and the behavior of other animals. What unites all capybara habitats is the presence of water, and the kind of gentle, gradual landscape changes that allow these peaceful creatures to move and adapt without stress. They avoid areas with steep terrain, fast-flowing rivers, or dense forest cover. Their ideal environment is one where they can see potential threats from a distance, reach water quickly when needed, and find abundant food without having to compete aggressively with other animals. The human impact on these landscapes has created both challenges and unexpected opportunities for capybaras. While development has eliminated some traditional habitats, capybaras have shown remarkable adaptability to certain types of human-modified environments. They've colonized farm ponds, irrigation canals, and even suburban areas where water features and lawn grass provide acceptable substitutes for wild habitats. Relationships with other animals, nature's diplomats. In the animal kingdom, few creatures have mastered the art of peaceful coexistence quite like the capybara. They've somehow earned universal respect across species lines, becoming nature's ultimate diplomats and proving that gentleness can be its own form of strength. The most famous of these relationships is with birds. Photographs of capybaras serving as living perches for various bird species have become iconic images of animal harmony. But this isn't just a one-sided arrangement that benefits only the birds. The relationship is a masterpiece of mutual benefit, evolved over countless generations of shared habitat. Cattle egrets, those elegant white birds with long necks and sharp eyes, have formed perhaps the most visible partnership with capybaras. As capybaras move through grasslands, their large bodies disturb insects and small creatures hiding in the vegetation. The egrets follow close behind, or often ride directly on their backs, picking off these disturbed insects with surgical precision. In return, the birds serve as an early warning system, taking flight at the first sign of danger and alerting their capybara hosts to potential threats. But the bird relationships go far beyond mere pest control. Small songbirds use capybaras as mobile lookout posts, gaining elevated views of their territory, while the capybaras provide steady, non-threatening platforms. Watching a capybara move slowly through a meadow with 2 or 3 birds riding on its back is like observing a living ecosystem in motion. A peaceful convoy where each member contributes to the safety and success of the whole. The relationship with primates is equally fascinating, but more complex. Squirrel monkeys and capuchin monkeys have been observed playing with young capybaras, engaging in games that seem to serve no purpose other than mutual entertainment. Adult monkeys will sometimes groom capybaras, picking through their thick fur for parasites while the capybaras remain perfectly still, as if enjoying a spa treatment. Even more surprising is the capybara's relationship with caimans, relatives of crocodiles that share their aquatic habitat. While caimans are capable predators that could theoretically threaten capybaras, particularly younger ones, peaceful coexistence is the norm. Adult capybaras seem to understand caiman behavior and respect their space, while caimans appear to recognize that capybaras pose no threat and require no defensive action. There are documented cases of young caimans actually basking on the backs of adult capybaras, using their warm, stable bodies as platforms for temperature regulation. The capybaras tolerate this with their characteristic calm, occasionally shifting position but never showing signs of stress or aggression. It's as if they understand their role as peacekeepers in their aquatic communities. Turtles represent another peaceful partnership. Large river turtles often share basking spots with capybaras, both species benefiting from the warmth of sunny riverbanks. The turtles gain protection from being near the larger, more alert capybaras, while the capybaras seem to appreciate the turtles' ability to detect changes in water conditions that might signal danger. Perhaps most heartwarming are the relationships capybaras form with orphaned or lost animals of other species. There are numerous accounts of capybaras adopting baby animals, from orphaned monkeys to lost domestic animals. Their maternal instincts seem to extend beyond species boundaries, and their calm, protective presence provides comfort to stressed or frightened animals. This adoption behavior isn't limited to babies. Adult animals recovering from injuries or illness sometimes seek out capybara groups, as if instinctively understanding that these peaceful creatures represent safety and acceptance. Capybaras rarely reject these refugees, instead simply incorporating them into their daily routines of feeding, resting, and moving between locations. The relationship dynamics become even more interesting when considering larger mammals. Tapirs, fellow herbivores who share some of the same habitat preferences, coexist peacefully with capybaras around water sources. While tapirs are more solitary and capybaras are more social, they seem to have worked out an unspoken agreement about sharing resources and space. Deer species throughout capybara range also maintain peaceful relationships with these gentle giants. Both are herbivores with similar feeding schedules and habitat preferences, but rather than competing, they've developed complementary feeding patterns. Deer might graze in areas that capybaras have already processed, benefiting from the shorter grass that capybara feeding creates. Even potential predators show unusual respect for capybaras. Jaguars, the apex predators of South American wetlands, certainly hunt capybaras when the opportunity arises, but they seem to prefer easier prey when available. Adult capybaras in groups are formidable opponents not because they're aggressive, but because their calm alertness and group cohesion make them difficult to approach undetected. The key to understanding these relationships lies in recognizing that capybaras have mastered the art of non-threatening presence. They move through their environment without creating stress or competition for other animals. Their body language, their feeding patterns, their social behaviors, everything about them signals peaceful intent. In a world where many animals are constantly assessing threats and competition, capybaras represent a welcome island of calm. Seasonal rhythms, dancing with nature's changes. The life of a capybara flows with the seasons like water, follows the contours of land, naturally, inevitably, and with a grace that seems choreographed by the earth itself. Understanding their seasonal rhythms is like learning to read nature's most peaceful calendar, where every change brings new opportunities for contentment and adaptation. In the wet season, when South American skies open up and pour their abundance onto the landscape, capybaras enter what can only be described as their time of plenty. The rains begin slowly, with afternoon thunderstorms that build like gentle promises on the horizon. You can almost see the capybaras responding to the changing barometric pressure, their behavior shifting subtly in anticipation of the water to come. As the rains intensify and spread across the landscape, transforming dry grasslands into vast shallow lakes, capybara society becomes more dispersed. Family groups that might have been concentrated around a single water source during the dry season now spread out across the newly available habitat. This isn't abandonment, it's expansion. like a peaceful population growth that follows the expanding boundaries of their aquatic paradise. The wet season brings a different quality of light to capybara country. The air becomes softer, hazier, filled with moisture that creates gentle mists in the early morning and golden, diffused sunlight in the late afternoon. In this environment, capybaras seem to glow with contentment. Their fur takes on a different texture in the humid air, and their movements become even more leisurely, as if they're savoring every moment of abundance. This is also the season of birth for most capybaras. After a gestation period of about 150 days, mothers give birth to litters of 2 to 8 babies, usually during the height of the wet season when food is most abundant and water levels provide maximum protection from predators. The timing isn't coincidental. It's the result of evolutionary fine-tuning that ensures babies enter the world when conditions are most favorable for survival. Watching newborn capybaras experience their first rainy season is pure magic. These tiny copies of their parents, weighing only about 2 pounds at birth, are born already able to swim and eat solid food. Within days, they're following their mothers into the water, learning the rhythms of aquatic life that will sustain them throughout their lives. Their first experiences with rain, standing in gentle downpours with their eyes closed, learning the feeling of water from above rather than around them, seem to instill a deep peace that will characterize their entire approach to life. As the wet season progresses toward its peak, capybara behavior becomes increasingly aquatic. They spend longer periods in water, sometimes resting in shallow areas with just their heads above the surface for hours at a time. The abundance of water plants during this season means they can feed without leaving the water, creating scenes of perfect integration between animal and element. The transition to dry season begins gradually, almost imperceptibly. The afternoon rains become less frequent, then sporadic, then cease altogether. The vast sheets of water begin their slow retreat, leaving behind enriched soils and changed landscapes. Capybaras respond to these changes with the same unhurried adaptation they bring to everything else, not fighting the transition, but flowing with it. As water levels drop and the landscape begins to contract back toward permanent rivers and ponds, capybara society shifts into its dry season configuration. The dispersed family groups begin to converge again, following the retreating waters back to the reliable sources that will sustain them through the coming months of scarcity. This seasonal migration is one of nature's most peaceful mass movements. There's no panic, no desperate rushing toward water. Instead, capybara families move at their characteristic leisurely pace, stopping to feed along the way, taking time to rest in whatever shade they can find, maintaining their social bonds and calm demeanor even as their world literally contracts around them. The dry season concentrates capybaras around remaining water sources, creating some of the largest gatherings of these gentle creatures anywhere in the world. Hundreds of capybaras from different family groups come together around major rivers and permanent wetlands, forming temporary supercommunities that can be breathtaking to witness. These dry season aggregations showcase capybara social skills at their finest. With so many individuals sharing limited space and resources, you might expect tension and conflict. Instead, you see elaborate patterns of peaceful coexistence, with complex but subtle social arrangements that minimize competition and maximize harmony. The dry season also brings different feeding challenges and opportunities. With aquatic plants less available, capybaras turn more heavily to terrestrial grasses and begin to explore dietary options they might ignore during times of plenty. They become more selective, traveling greater distances to find the highest quality food, but always at their characteristic unhurried pace. This is also the season when capybaras showcase their remarkable ability to go without water for extended periods when necessary. While they prefer to drink daily and still seek out water for temperature regulation during the hottest parts of the day, they can survive several days without drinking by extracting moisture from their plant diet, and minimizing water loss through behavioral adaptations. The quality of light changes again during the dry season, becoming sharper, more defined, with clearer skies and more dramatic sunrises and sunsets. Against this backdrop, capybaras appear more statuesque, their solid forms creating peaceful silhouettes against expansive sky. The sounds of the dry season are different too, less splash and gurgle, more rustling of dry grasses, and the distant calls of birds adapting to the changing landscape. As the dry season progresses toward its end, experienced capybaras begin to show subtle signs of anticipation for the coming rains. They seem to sense the changing weather patterns before humans, with all their meteorological equipment, can predict them. This sensitivity to seasonal change speaks to their deep integration with natural cycles, their complete attunement to the rhythms of their environment. Cultural impact: gentle giants in human hearts. The story of how capybaras captured human hearts is really a story about what we recognize in ourselves when we encounter true peace. In a world that often feels rushed, stressed, and competitive, capybaras represent something we've lost but deeply miss: the ability to move through life with genuine calm and contentment. Their journey into human consciousness began long before social media existed. Indigenous peoples of South America have lived alongside capybaras for thousands of years, incorporating them into their cultural stories and daily lives. In many indigenous languages, the words for capybara translate roughly to master of the grasses or lord of the waters, reflecting the respect these cultures developed for an animal that seemed to embody perfect harmony with nature. Traditional folklore from the Amazon basin includes stories of capybaras as mediators between the water spirits and land spirits, creatures so trusted by both realms that they could move freely between them. In some tales, capybaras are portrayed as wise counselors who solve conflicts through patience and understanding rather than force or cunning. These stories reveal an ancient recognition of the same qualities that make capybaras so appealing to modern audiences. The transition from indigenous respect to global adoration accelerated with the advent of wildlife photography and nature documentaries. Early images of capybaras being used as perches by colorful birds captured imaginations worldwide. Here was visual proof that peaceful coexistence wasn't just a human ideal. It was being lived every day by these remarkable creatures. But it was the rise of internet culture that truly launched capybaras into the global spotlight. Their naturally photogenic calm translated perfectly to digital media, creating images and videos that seemed to radiate tranquility through computer screens. Unlike many animals that appear stressed or agitated in captivity, capybaras maintain their essential calm even in artificial environments, making them natural stars of zoo webcams and wildlife documentaries. The phrase capybara energy entered popular vocabulary as a way to describe the kind of peaceful, unflappable attitude that the animals embody. People began using capybara images as visual shorthand for relaxation, contentment, and the aspiration to remain calm under pressure. Meditation apps started featuring capybara imagery, and stress reduction programs began using these animals as examples of natural mindfulness. In Japan, capybaras achieved particular cultural significance through the phenomenon of capybara hot springs. Japanese zoos discovered that capybaras enjoy warm baths during winter months, leading to the creation of special hot spring experiences for captive capybaras. The sight of these peaceful creatures soaking in steaming pools, often with citrus fruits floating around them for aromatherapy, became a symbol of ultimate relaxation. Videos of capybaras in hot springs went viral globally, reinforcing their status as the world's most zen animals. The cultural impact extends far beyond internet memes and zoo attractions. Capybaras have influenced art, literature, and even philosophy. Contemporary artists draw inspiration from their calm presence, creating works that explore themes of peace, adaptation, and harmonious coexistence. Their image appears in everything from children's books about friendship to adult coloring books designed for stress relief. In South American countries where capybaras are native, they've become unofficial ambassadors for conservation and environmental awareness. Their appeal helps draw attention to wetland preservation and sustainable development practices. Tourism centered around capybara watching has created economic incentives for habitat protection, showing how the animal's natural charisma can directly contribute to their own conservation. The therapeutic applications of capybara imagery and symbolism continue to expand. Therapists report that clients find capybara videos and images particularly effective for anxiety reduction. There's something about their steady breathing, slow movements, and peaceful expressions that helps people regulate their own nervous systems. Support groups for stress and anxiety disorders have adopted capybara mascots, using these animals as symbols of the calm they're working to achieve. Conservation stories protecting peace. The story of capybara conservation is refreshingly positive in a world often filled with environmental doom and gloom. Unlike many wildlife species struggling against extinction, capybaras have maintained relatively stable populations across most of their range. This success story offers valuable lessons about what happens when an animal's natural adaptability meets thoughtful human stewardship. The key to capybara conservation success lies partly in their remarkable adaptability to human-modified landscapes. While many species suffer when their habitats are altered, capybaras have shown an unusual ability to thrive in certain types of agricultural and suburban environments. Cattle ranches with scattered ponds, rice paddies during flooding season, and even golf courses with water features can provide suitable habitat for capybara populations. This adaptability has created unique conservation challenges and opportunities. In some areas, capybaras have become so successful at adapting to human environments that they're considered agricultural pests, competing with livestock for grazing areas and sometimes damaging crops. However, rather than resorting to wholesale elimination programs, many countries have developed innovative management strategies that balance human needs with capybara conservation. Brazil has led the way in developing sustainable capybara management programs. Recognizing that these animals can coexist with human activities when properly managed, Brazilian authorities have created licensing systems that allow controlled harvesting of capybaras in some areas while protecting core populations in others. This approach acknowledges both the ecological value of capybaras and the legitimate concerns of farmers and ranchers. The harvesting programs are carefully designed to maintain population stability while providing economic benefits to local communities. Capybara leather is prized for its durability and unique texture, while capybara meat is considered a delicacy in some regions. By creating legal, regulated markets for these products, Brazil has reduced illegal hunting while providing incentives for habitat conservation. These programs also include extensive monitoring components that track capybara populations across different habitat types. Scientists use techniques ranging from traditional counting methods to modern GPS tracking and camera trapping to understand how capybara populations respond to different management approaches. The data collected has revealed fascinating insights about capybara ecology and helped refine conservation strategies. One of the most successful conservation initiatives has been the creation of capybara-friendly corridors between protected areas. These corridors, often following river systems and wetland chains, allow capybara populations to move between different habitat patches, maintaining genetic diversity and population resilience. The corridors are designed to accommodate capybara movement patterns, while minimizing conflicts with human activities. Community-based conservation programs have been particularly effective for capybara protection. Local communities that live alongside capybaras often develop strong cultural connections to these animals, seeing them as symbols of their regional identity. Conservation programs that involve these communities as active participants, rather than passive beneficiaries, have achieved remarkable success in maintaining both capybara populations and human livelihoods. Educational programs play a crucial role in capybara conservation success. School children throughout South America learn about capybaras as examples of successful adaptation and peaceful coexistence. These educational initiatives help build the next generation of conservation advocates, while reducing human capybara conflicts through increased understanding and appreciation. Research stations dedicated to capybara study have become hubs for broader wetland conservation efforts. Scientists studying capybaras have developed expertise in wetland ecology, water quality monitoring, and grassland management that benefits entire ecosystems. The peaceful nature of capybaras makes them ideal study subjects, allowing researchers to observe natural behaviors with minimal disturbance. International cooperation has also contributed to capybara conservation success. The species range crosses multiple national boundaries, requiring coordination between countries to ensure population connectivity and habitat protection. South American countries have worked together to establish trans-boundary protected areas and coordinate management policies. Climate change presents both challenges and opportunities for capybara conservation. While changing precipitation patterns may alter some traditional habitats, capybara's flexibility and adaptability position them well to cope with environmental changes. Conservation planners are working to ensure that protected area networks can accommodate potential shifts in capybara distribution as climate patterns evolve. The success of capybara conservation also demonstrates the value of working with species that can coexist with human activities rather than requiring pristine, undisturbed habitats. This approach offers hope for conservation in increasingly human-dominated landscapes and provides models for managing other adaptable species. Capybaras as pets and therapy animals, bringing peace home. The idea of sharing your home with a capybara might sound like something out of a fantasy novel, but for a small number of dedicated animal lovers around the world, it's become a remarkable reality. These domestic capybaras offer unique insights into the species' intelligence, emotional depth, and capacity for forming bonds with humans. Capybaras require special permits in most jurisdictions, and for good reason. They're not domestic animals in the traditional sense. They're wild creatures that happen to adapt well to certain human environments. Successful capybara ownership requires extensive preparation, significant resources, and a deep commitment to meeting their complex needs. The most critical requirement is water access. Domestic capybaras need daily opportunities to swim and soak, which means heated pools, specialized drainage systems, and constant water quality monitoring. Their owners often describe the installation of capybara-appropriate water features as similar to creating an elaborate aquatic garden that happens to double as a giant pet's bathroom. But for those who can provide proper care, capybaras reveal personality traits that wild observation only hints at. Domestic capybaras form distinct preferences for different family members, showing what can only be described as friendship rather than simple dependence. They develop daily routines that incorporate both human schedules and their own natural rhythms, creating unique household dynamics. Their intelligence becomes more apparent in domestic settings. Capybaras can learn to respond to their names, navigate complex indoor-outdoor living arrangements, and even master simple problem-solving tasks. Some have learned to open doors, operate simple latches, and communicate their needs through specific behaviors, that their human families learn to interpret. The emotional depth of domestic capybaras often surprises their owners. These animals form what appear to be genuine emotional bonds with humans, showing signs of joy when favorite people return home and displaying what looks remarkably like sadness during separations. They seem to understand human emotions as well, often approaching family members who are upset or stressed, offering their calm presence as a form of comfort. This comforting ability has led to the development of capybara therapy programs in several countries. While still experimental and limited, these programs pair specially trained capybaras with trained handlers to provide animal-assisted therapy in various settings. The natural calm that capybaras radiate seems to have measurable effects on human stress levels and emotional regulation. Therapy capybaras work primarily with individuals dealing with anxiety, depression, and stress-related disorders. The animals' slow, peaceful movements and steady breathing patterns seem to help people naturally regulate their own physiological responses. Unlike more energetic therapy animals that provide stimulation and activity, capybaras offer something different: pure, steady calm that people can absorb simply by being near them. The training process for therapy capybaras is extensive and specialized. These animals must be comfortable with human touch, unfazed by unusual sounds or movements, and able to remain calm in various environments. The training builds on their natural temperament, but requires months of careful work to prepare them for therapeutic settings. Handlers report that capybaras seem to instinctively understand when someone needs comfort. They'll approach distressed individuals without prompting and remain motionless beside them for extended periods. This behavior isn't trained. It appears to be a natural extension of their peaceful nature and their ability to read the emotional states of other beings. The legal and ethical considerations around capybara ownership are complex and evolving. Many jurisdictions are developing specific regulations for exotic pet ownership that balance animal welfare concerns with public safety. These regulations typically require extensive permits, regular veterinary care, and proof of appropriate facilities. Veterinary care for domestic capybaras requires specialists familiar with their unique physiology and dietary needs. Regular health monitoring includes checking their continuously growing teeth, monitoring for parasites, and ensuring proper nutrition. The cost and complexity of providing appropriate veterinary care makes capybara ownership a significant financial commitment. Socialization needs present another challenge for domestic capybara care. These naturally social animals can become depressed and stressed without appropriate companionship. Some owners keep multiple capybaras, while others work to provide extensive human interaction and environmental enrichment to meet their social needs. The dietary requirements for domestic capybaras mirror those of their wild counterparts, but require more careful management. Owners must provide constant access to high-quality hay, fresh vegetables, and appropriate supplements. The animals' coprophagic behavior, eating some of their own droppings, continues in domestic settings and must be accommodated as a normal part of their digestive process. Despite the challenges, people who successfully share their lives with capybaras describe the experience as transformative. Living with such naturally peaceful creatures seems to influence human behavior patterns, encouraging slower, more mindful approaches to daily life. Many owners report that their capybaras have taught them valuable lessons about finding contentment in simple pleasures and maintaining calm in stressful situations. Scientific discoveries, unlocking the secrets of serenity. The scientific study of capybaras has revealed layers of complexity beneath their serene exterior, showing us that their remarkable calmness isn't just a superficial trait, but rather the result of sophisticated biological and behavioral adaptations that scientists are still working to fully understand. Recent research into capybara social intelligence has revealed cognitive abilities that rival those of many more celebrated animal species. Their ability to maintain peaceful social groups despite seasonal population fluctuations requires sophisticated communication skills, memory, and social reasoning that researchers are only beginning to appreciate. Studies using GPS tracking have revealed the remarkable precision with which capybaras navigate their territories. Individual capybaras maintain detailed mental maps of their environments, including seasonal variations in water levels, food availability, and safe routes between different areas. This spatial intelligence allows them to make complex decisions about movement and resource use that optimize their survival while minimizing energy expenditure. One of the most fascinating areas of current research focuses on capybara stress physiology. Scientists have discovered that capybaras have unusually stable cortisol levels compared to other herbivorous mammals of similar size, even in situations that would cause significant stress responses in other animals, such as predator encounters or social disruptions. Capybaras maintain remarkably steady stress hormone levels. This physiological calm isn't simply the result of being less aware of threats. Brain imaging studies have shown that capybaras process threat-related information normally, but have enhanced neural pathways associated with calm responses and recovery from stress. Their brains appear to be optimized for returning quickly to baseline calm states, rather than maintaining prolonged stress responses. Research into their digestive system has revealed fascinating adaptations that support their peaceful lifestyle. The efficiency of their two-stage digestion process allows them to extract maximum nutrition from low-quality plant material without the aggressive foraging behaviors seen in many other herbivores. This digestive efficiency means they can afford to be selective and unhurried in their feeding, contributing to their overall calm demeanor. Scientists have also discovered that capybara vocalizations are more complex than previously understood. What sounds like simple whistles and clicks to human ears actually contains layered information about individual identity, emotional state, and specific environmental conditions. The peaceful nature of capybara communication appears to result from sophisticated information exchange that prevents misunderstandings and conflicts before they can develop. Acoustic analysis has revealed that capybara vocalizations include infrasonic components sounds below the range of human hearing. These low-frequency calls can travel long distances and may serve to maintain contact between groups across large territories. The discovery suggests that capybara social coordination operates on scales and through channels that human observers have only recently begun to detect. Studies of their swimming abilities have uncovered remarkable physiological adaptations. Capybaras can adjust their buoyancy by controlling the amount of air in their lungs and digestive system, allowing them to rest motionless on the bottom of water bodies when necessary. This ability requires precise control of breathing and internal pressure that demonstrates sophisticated physiological regulation. Research into their thermoregulation has revealed another layer of their environmental adaptability. Capybaras can adjust their metabolic rate and circulation patterns to maintain optimal body temperature across a wide range of environmental conditions. This flexibility reduces the energy costs associated with temperature regulation, contributing to their ability to remain calm and unhurried even in challenging conditions. Current studies are investigating whether capybaras produce chemical compounds that contribute to their calming effect on other animals. Preliminary research suggests that capybara scent glands may produce pheromones that have naturally calming effects on other species, potentially explaining their role as nature's peacemakers. Genetic research has begun to identify the molecular basis for some capybara traits. Scientists are studying genes associated with stress response, social behavior, and cognitive function to understand how evolution has optimized these animals for peaceful coexistence. These genetic insights may eventually contribute to understanding stress and social behavior in other species, including humans. Behavioral studies using advanced video analysis techniques have revealed subtle patterns in capybara movement and posture that communicate information to other group members. These microbehaviors operate below the level of conscious human observation, but appear to play crucial roles in maintaining group harmony and preventing conflicts. Research into their immune systems has shown that capybaras have unusually robust defenses against parasites and diseases, despite their lifestyle that would seem to expose them to many pathogens. This immune efficiency may contribute to their overall calm by reducing the physical stress associated with fighting infections and parasites. Ongoing research projects are investigating capybara cognition through carefully designed behavioral experiments that work within their natural behavioral patterns. These studies avoid the stress-inducing techniques often used in animal cognition research, instead observing problem-solving abilities, memory, and learning in contexts that align with capybara natural behaviors. The cumulative picture emerging from capybara research suggests that their remarkable calm results from multiple biological and behavioral adaptations working in harmony. Rather than being simply passive or unaware, capybaras appear to be actively optimized for maintaining peace and stability in complex, changing environments. Daily Life Vignettes, A Day in Paradise. As the first pale light of dawn begins to filter through the morning mist rising from the river, a family of capybaras stirs slowly from their night's rest. They've spent the dark hours huddled together on a grassy bank, their large bodies creating a warm, safe cluster that protected them from both the cool night air and any potential predators who might have been prowling in the darkness. The awakening is gradual, almost ceremonial in its unhurried pace. One adult raises her head first, blinking slowly as she surveys the peaceful morning landscape. Her movement is so gentle that it barely disturbs the young capybara who is using her flank as a pillow. The soft whistle she makes, barely audible to human ears but clearly meaningful to her family, begins the day's first communication. One by one, the others begin to stir. Stretching comes first, a slow extension of legs, a careful arch of the back, movements that speak of bodies perfectly comfortable with themselves and their environment. There's no urgency, no sudden leap into activity. This is awakening as meditation, each movement deliberate and calm. The morning routine begins with what can only be described as a social greeting ceremony. Family members approach each other with slow, deliberate movements, touching noses gently in recognition and reassurance. The soft sounds they make, quiet clicks and whispers, create a peaceful soundtrack to the dawn. Young capybaras receive extra attention, with adults carefully grooming their fur and checking them with the tender thoroughness of devoted parents. As the mist begins to lift and the world becomes more visible, the family moves toward the water's edge for their morning drink. The procession is unhurried but purposeful, with the lead adult choosing a path that avoids steep banks and provides easy access to clean, flowing water. The sound of their feet in the dewy grass creates a gentle rhythm, like nature's own percussion section warming up for the day. The first drink of the day is taken with the same deliberate calm that characterizes everything else they do. Each capybara approaches the water's edge carefully, testing the temperature with sensitive lips before committing to a full drink. The sound of lapping water mingles with the gentle ripples they create, adding to the symphony of peaceful morning sounds. With their thirst satisfied, it's time for the morning's first feeding session. The family spreads out across a nearby meadow where the grass is still heavy with dew, each member selecting their preferred grazing spot with the care of a connoisseur, choosing the perfect place for breakfast. The rhythmic sound of chewing begins, dozens of jaws working in gentle synchronization, processing the day's first nutrients with methodical thoroughness. The morning feeding is interspersed with moments of rest and social interaction. A young capybara might approach an adult for reassurance or play, leading to brief sessions of gentle grooming or what looks remarkably like affectionate nuzzling. These interactions flow naturally between feeding periods, creating a social rhythm that balances individual needs with group cohesion. As the sun climbs higher and the day begins to warm, the family's activities shift toward their first water session. The transition from land to water is seamless. They wade in gradually, testing temperatures and currents with the expertise of lifelong aquatic athletes. Soon, most of the family is partially submerged, with just heads visible above the gentle current. The midday hours bring the full heat of the South American sun, and this is when capybara engineering really shines. They position themselves in shallow water with remarkable precision, finding spots where they can remain cool and comfortable while still maintaining visual contact with each other and awareness of their surroundings. Some rest with their bodies fully submerged and only their nostrils above water, like living submarine periscopes monitoring their peaceful domain. This is the time for the deepest rest of the day. Individual capybaras may close their eyes for extended periods, but the group maintains a collective vigilance that never fully relaxes. Even in sleep, their ears continue to move, tracking sounds and maintaining the awareness necessary for survival in the wild. The afternoon brings another feeding period as temperatures begin to cool. The family emerges from water with the same unhurried grace they bring to everything else, water streaming from their thick fur in patterns that catch the slanted sunlight. Their afternoon grazing takes them to different areas than their morning feeding, following preferences and patterns that optimize nutrition while preventing overgrazing of any single area. Late afternoon is often the most active time of day for capybaras, though active is a relative term when applied to these masters of calm. They may travel greater distances, explore new areas, or engage in more extended social interactions. Young capybaras are most playful during this period, engaging in gentle games that help develop their physical skills and social bonds. As evening approaches and the light begins to golden, the family begins its gradual movement toward their chosen resting place for the night. This selection process is careful and deliberate. They choose spots that offer protection from potential predators, access to escape routes, and comfort for the long hours of rest ahead. The transition to evening is marked by increased vocalizations as family members confirm their locations and status with each other. These evening communications are softer and more intimate than daytime calls, like family members checking in before settling down for the night. The final activity of the day is often another brief drink and a last session of social grooming. Family members take turns carefully cleaning each other's fur, paying special attention to areas that accumulated debris during the day's activities. This evening grooming session serves both practical and emotional purposes, removing parasites and dirt while reinforcing the social bonds that keep the family unit strong and cohesive. As darkness settles over their habitat and the sounds of the night begin, the calls of nocturnal birds, the rustle of other animals moving through the darkness, the capybara family settles into their chosen resting spot. They arrange themselves with the same careful attention to comfort and security that they bring to everything else, creating a warm, safe cluster. As our gentle journey through the world of capybaras comes to a close, we find ourselves enriched by the wisdom these remarkable creatures embody. In their unhurried movements through South American wetlands, in their peaceful social gatherings, and in their masterful balance between land and water, capybaras offer us something precious, a living example of how to move through life with genuine calm and contentment. They remind us that strength doesn't always roar, that intelligence doesn't always hurry, And that happiness often comes from the simple act of being perfectly present in each moment. If sleep is already calling you into its embrace, then tonight's mission is wonderfully complete. But if you're still here with me, perhaps another midnight exploration will be the gentle tide that carries you toward rest. Until we meet again, may sleep find you easily. May your dreams be filled with wonder, and may you wake tomorrow with just a touch of that legendary capybara zen.